My son cut me off for 13 years, until he found out I was a millionaire. He showed up at my door with suitcases and his wife saying, "I'm your son. I deserve my share." I smiled. Because what they didn't know was that I had evidence of every word they said, every plan to destroy me, every lie about to be exposed. They thought their plan would succeed perfectly, and they had no idea I was about to do something that would shock. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment and let me know, where are you watching this from? I want to know who's listening to this old man's story. The doorbell rang at 9:47 on a Saturday morning in June, right when my brisket was hitting its sweet spot. I wasn't expecting anyone. Theodore wasn't due until noon, and the crew from the East Austin location knew better than to show up unannounced on my day off. I wiped my hands on my apron, the one with Fletcher's Smokehouse, stitched in gold thread across the chest, and walked through the house, past the floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the hill country view I'd earned brick by brick, dollar by dollar. When I opened the door, I saw my son for the first time in 13 years. Dominic stood on my front porch in a tailored navy suit that probably cost more than my first smoker. His hair was thinner than I remembered, receding at the temples, and his face had gone soft around the jaw, the kind of soft that comes from too many late nights and bad decisions. Next to him stood Veronica, his wife, wrapped in a cream-colored dress and oversized sunglasses that screamed designer label. Behind them, stacked on the stone driveway like they were checking into the Four Seasons, were 4 Louis Vuitton suitcases. "Dad," Dominic said. Not "Hi, Dad," or "It's been a long time, Dad," or even, "I'm sorry for kicking you out of your own house 13 years ago, Dad." Just Dad, flat and transactional, like he was reading off a business card. I didn't answer right away. I let the silence stretch between us. Let him see that I wasn't the same man he'd left standing on a curb with nothing but a duffel bag and a broken heart. I was 69 years old now, standing in the doorway of a $4 million home in Westlake Hills, and I sure as hell wasn't about to flinch. "Dominic," I said finally. Then I shifted my gaze. "Veronica." She slid her sunglasses down just enough to let her eyes sweep past me over the vaulted ceilings, the Italian marble floors, the hand-forged wrought iron staircase that curved up to the second floor like something out of a magazine. Her lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Beautiful home, Harrison," she said, smooth as aged whiskey. "So much space." I caught the edge in her voice. Space. Not "congratulations on your success" or "we're proud of you." No, space. As in room for us. Dominic cleared his throat, tugging at his collar. "Dad, we need to talk." About, he glanced at Veronica, then back at me. About everything. About the past. About family. About moving forward. That was rich. Coming from the man who'd taken everything I had, everything his mother had left me, and kicked me to the curb with $150 a month, like I was some tenant he was evicting. But I didn't say that. Not yet. Instead, I stepped aside and pulled the door open wider. "Come in," I said. "Let's talk." They walked past me, Veronica's heels clicking sharp on the marble like little exclamation points. Dominic's eyes sweeping over every piece of furniture, every painting, every goddamn thing, like he was already calculating its value. I watched Veronica run her fingers along the back of my leather couch, the one I'd bought, with my own money I'd earned smoking meat 16 hours a day. I watched Dominic settle into the armchair by the window like he owned it, and I knew exactly what they were here for. But here's the thing, they didn't know I'd been expecting them. But to understand why I'd been expecting them, you need to know about Beatrice. My wife, the woman who built everything. Beatrice Fletcher was born in 1951 in a small town outside San Antonio, the daughter of a seamstress who taught her that fabric could tell stories. By the time I met her in '78, she was already making waves in Dallas with custom designs for oil baron weddings and country club galas. By the mid-'80s, she'd built an Empire showrooms in Dallas, and Austin her labels stitched into dresses that cost more than most people's cars. By 2012, her company was worth $10 to $12 million. I was a pitmaster at Smokey Joe's BBQ on South Congress, pulling $55,000 a year and coming home every night smelling like hickory smoke. I didn't mind. I loved the rhythm of tending fire, the patience it took to coax flavor from a brisket. Beatrice used to say I had smoke in my veins instead of blood. "You don't need millions, Harrison," she'd told me once on our back porch. "You just need to do what you love." I didn't need her money. I just needed my smoker and my family. Our son Dominic was a different story. Born in '84, he grew up with everything handed to him. New car at 16, private university paid in full, credit cards with no limits. Beatrice spoiled him rotten, always making excuses when he'd blow through $5,000 in a weekend. She'd say he was young, that he'd grow out of it. He never did. By 2009, Dominic was 25 and still floating on his mother's dime. That's when he brought Veronica home, Veronica Ashton. 29, from some hard-luck Houston neighborhood, with sharp cheekbones and sharper eyes. She knew exactly how to smile, how to compliment Beatrice's designs, how to ask all the right questions. Beatrice adored her. But I saw something else, something cold, like she was measuring the worth of every room she entered. I never said anything. What was I going to say? Your future daughter-in-law gives me bad vibes. So I kept quiet and kept smoking meat. Beatrice believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. She'd find me in the kitchen late at night, experimenting with rubs, and lean against the counter with that knowing smile. "You've got talent, Harrison. Real talent," she'd say. "Don't ever forget that. One day people are going to see it." I'd laugh, kiss her forehead, tell her I was happy right where I was. I meant it. Until March 2012, when a drunk driver ran a red light on I-35 and took her from me in seconds. I stood at her funeral in a church packed with fashion designers and socialites I'd never met, all crying over a woman they only knew from magazines. Dominic stood beside me in black, dry-eyed and distant. Veronica dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, but I never saw actual tears. I stared at that casket and felt like someone had carved out my chest with a dull knife. Beatrice was 61. We were supposed to have more time. 2 weeks after we buried her, I sat in Mitchell Price's law office on 6th Street, staring at a mahogany desk I couldn't afford on 10 years' salary. Mitchell was Beatrice's attorney, had been for 20 years. Silver-haired, 55, the kind of lawyer who wore cufflinks and spoke in careful sentences. Dominic sat to my left, blank-faced, like he'd been since the funeral. Veronica perched beside him in black hands-folded eyes alert. Mitchell opened a leather folder. Beatrice was very specific about her wishes, he said. What came next hit me like a freight train. The house our Westlake home, worth $2.8 million, went to me. The company her fashion empire valued between $5 and $7 million went to me. $1 million cash from investments went to me. Dominic received $1 million cash and $500,000 from life insurance. Total $1.5 million. The room went dead silent. I could hear the clock ticking, the air conditioning humming, Dominic's breathing accelerating beside me. "Wait," his voice cracked. "What?" Mitchell looked up. "Your mother left the majority of her estate to your father. These amounts are legally binding." Dominic shot to his feet. His chair scraped loud against hardwood. "That's impossible. Mom knew Dad doesn't know anything about business. Why would she give him the company?" "Because it was her decision," Mitchell said evenly. I sat there stunned. Beatrice never told me. Never once mentioned she was leaving me everything. I'd assumed Dominic would inherit the company. He was her son, her blood. "Son, listen," I started. "Don't." He jabbed a finger at me. "You're a cook, Dad. You smoke meat. What are you going to do with a fashion company you don't even know silk from polyester?" Dominic. "Mom built that company for 30 years, and she handed it to someone who'll destroy it in 6 months. Your mother's will is ironclad," Mitchell said firmly. "I drafted it myself. No grounds for contest." I found my voice. "I don't want to fight. Your mom had her reasons. I'll respect them." "Her reasons?" Dominic's face went red. "Her reasons were she always picked you over me." He stormed out. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the diplomas on the wall. Veronica stayed seated. She watched him leave, then turned to me with a look I couldn't read. Not angry, not sad, calculating. "What will you do with the company?" she asked quietly. I was 56, exhausted, grieving, suddenly responsible for millions I didn't understand. "Probably sell it," I admitted. "I don't know fashion." Beatrice knew that. Veronica nodded slowly, like she was filing that away. Then she stood smoothed, her dress walked to the door. "I'm sorry for your loss, Harrison." She left without looking back. Mitchell closed the folder and met my eyes. "She loved you very much," he said. "Beatrice once told me you were the only person who loved her for who she was not, what she had." I nodded throat tight. I spent the next 2 weeks in a fog. Paperwork, phone calls, business managers I'd never met asking questions I couldn't answer. I signed documents, transferring assets, met with accountants, tried to understand spreadsheets that might as well have been written in Mandarin. Dominic didn't call, didn't text, nothing. Then on a Thursday afternoon, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Dominic standing there with a man in an expensive suit, sharp eyes, slicked back hair, briefcase in hand. Not Mitchell. Someone new. "Dad," Dominic said. His voice was flat, cold, empty of anything resembling warmth. "This is Thomas Brennan. He's a real estate attorney." My stomach dropped. "We need to talk," Dominic continued, "about this house." Thomas Brennan set his briefcase on my kitchen table and pulled out documents like he was dealing cards at a poker game. "Mr. Fletcher," he said without looking at me, "are you aware this property carries an outstanding mortgage of $200,000? My stomach dropped. He was right. 22 years ago, I'd remortgaged to borrow $60,000 for Howard Dixon's emergency heart surgery. We'd paid most back, but between interest and a refinance in '07, we still owed $200,000. Beatrice and I were handling it, I said. Were, past tense. Brennan slid a paper toward me. Your son paid it off, all of it. Used the $500,000 from his mother's life insurance, $200 to the bank, $300 in his pocket. I looked at Dominic. Why, oh, because now I'm a co-owner, he said flatly. I paid your debt. That gives me legal standing. Brennan tapped the document. Under Texas law, your son can petition for partition division of assets or sole occupancy. He's requiring you to either buy out his share or vacate. The words hit me like a sledgehammer. This is my house. Beatrice left it to me. She left you a house with debt you couldn't pay, Dominic said. I paid it. Now half of it's mine. I stared at my son, the boy I'd taught to ride a bike, the kid who fell asleep on my shoulder during long drives. That boy was gone. This stranger had cold eyes and his dead mother's money in his pocket. Why are you doing this? Because it's fair. You got the company, the cash, everything. I got scraps. This house is worth $3 million. I'm taking what's mine. Veronica sat silent in the corner, watching everything with those calculating eyes. Brennan slid another paper across. Your options buy his half for $1.4 million, or vacate within 30 days. He'll provide a monthly allowance of $150 as goodwill. $150 a month. Goodwill, I said. Generous considering, Brennan replied. I couldn't afford $1.4 million. Dominic knew it. That's why he was sitting there with that blank expression, waiting for me to say it out loud. If that's what you want, I said quietly, I'll go. Dominic didn't even blink. I went upstairs and packed. 1 duffel bag, a week of clothes, a framed photo of Beatrice from our wedding day, my old chef's knife that my father gave me, 30 years in this house reduced to what I could carry. When I came back down, Dominic stood by the door. I stopped in front of him. Your mother believed you'd become a good man, I said. She died believing it. His jaw tightened, but he didn't speak. I walked past him down the steps across the driveway to the street. Behind me, the door closed. The deadbolt clicked into place. I stood on the sidewalk with everything I owned in one hand, staring at the house that used to be mine. The house where I'd raised a son, where I'd loved a wife, where I'd built a life that was now gone. Dominic stood in the window watching me. Veronica appeared beside him, her hand on his shoulder. I turned and walked away. My son was gone. My wife was gone, my home was gone, but I wasn't gone, not yet. I called Howard from a payphone on Lamar Boulevard because I didn't know where else to go. I need a place to stay, I said, just for a while. Get over here, Howard said, now. Howard Dixon lived in a 2-bedroom bungalow in East Austin, the kind of neighborhood where pickups outnumbered sedans and porches had worn-out gliders. He met me at the door, 66 years old, gray beard, calloused hands, and pulled me into a hug that smelled like motor oil and Old Spice. You don't ask, you just come, he said. Understand. His couch became my bed for 4 months. I spent those days hollow, staring at ceiling cracks, waking at 3 a.m., reaching for Beatrice, finding empty space. Remembering the funeral, the will, Dominic's eyes, that door closing. Howard tried everything. Coffee every morning, baseball on TV, beer I didn't touch. One night, he sat beside me. Remember 2000? He asked. I remembered. fuel line explosion at his garage, third-degree burns, 60,000 in medical bills he couldn't pay. You mortgaged your house when you just paid it off, Howard said. Handed me 60 grand and told me to pay you back when I could. Took me 10 years. You don't owe me? The hell I don't. You saved my life. He set his beer down. Now it's my turn. What finally cracked my fog wasn't Howard's words. It was his granddaughter. Melanie was 16, staying with Howard while her parents went through a messy divorce. She came home from school one afternoon, backpack hitting the floor, and looked at me with teenage bluntness. Grandpa says you used to cook professionally. Used to. Could you teach me? I'm sick of pizza rolls and Grandpa burns everything. Hey now, Howard protested. Something shifted in my chest. Yeah, I can do that. We made ribs that night. I showed her how to build a rub paprika, brown sugar garlic powder cayenne for heat. Slow cooked them in Howard's oven since he didn't have a smoker. The smell filled that little house. Smoke and spice and something close to home. Melanie took a bite eyes, going wide. Oh my God, she said. This is what actual food tastes like. Howard laughed. Now you see why I've kept this old coot around for 30 years. I sat at that table with a borrowed family watching Melanie demolish a rack of ribs and heard Beatrice's voice in my head. You've got talent, Harrison. Real talent. Don't ever forget that. One day people are going to see it. That night on Howard's couch I made a decision. I called Mitchell Price and told him to sell Beatrice's company. He found a buyer in 2 weeks. Dallas competitor, $6.8 million. I took it. When the money hit my account, I transferred everything but $620 into savings. That $620 went into my wallet in cash. Then I searched Craigslist for used smokers. Howard drove me to Pflugerville to pick up a beat-to-hell offset smoker some guy was selling for $500. You sure about this? Howard asked as we wrestled it into his truck bed. I looked at that dented, rusty beast and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Yeah, I said. I'm sure. Melanie climbed into the truck cab, grinning. Sir, you're really going to start over with $600 in that junky thing? That's the plan. She shook her head, still smiling. That's actually kind of badass. I laughed. First real laugh since Beatrice died. Let's find out if it works. It worked. That $500 smoker became my life for the next 10 months. I set it up in Howard's garage, Dixon's Auto Repair on Manor Road in East Austin, a cinder block shop that smelled like brake fluid and burnt coffee. Howard cleared space between a Chevy with a blown transmission and a rack of used tires. Cook as long as you want, he said. Customers wait anyway. Might as well feed 'em. September 2012, I bought $20 worth of brisket from H-E-B and fired up that smoker. Cut sandwiches, charged $5 each. Made $15, spent $20. Lost $5 my first day? Howard laughed. Rome wasn't built in a day. Second week, I made 80 profit. Third week, 200. By November, 280 a month. By February, 820. Word spread if you got your car fixed at Dixon's, you ate my BBQ. People started showing up just for the food. By April, I was pulling $2,800 a month. Lines out the door every lunch. That's when Giovanni Moretti walked in. Legend in Austin, 61, built like a fire hydrant, forearms covered in burn scars. Won Texas BBQ championship twice, 95 and 01. Ran a small cooking school out of his house. He ordered a plate, ate in silence, then looked at me. Not bad, but you're using too much heat on the back end, drying it out. I bristled. It's been selling fine. Selling fine and being great are two different things. He stood, dropped a business card on the counter. You got fire. Come by Saturday morning. 6 a.m. Don't be late. I went. For 3 months, Giovanni taught me everything. Oak for beef. Hickory for pork. Mesquite for sears. How to read temperature by touch. Choose cuts with proper marbling. Build a sauce that balanced sweet and heat. BBQ is patience, he'd say. You rush it, you ruin it. Same as life. By June 2013, my food had changed. Customers noticed. I wasn't just selling BBQ anymore. I was selling something people drove across town for. I'd saved $18,000. Rented a studio for $680 a month. Had my own place for the first time since Dominic kicked me out. But standing in Howard's garage one evening watching the line stretch down the block, I knew I'd maxed out. Couldn't grow anymore in a car garage with a $500 smoker. I needed a partner. Capital. The door opened. An older man in a pressed polo walked in, looked around. "I heard you make the best brisket in Austin," he said. "Let's find out if that's true." His name was Theodore Caldwell. He was about to change everything. Theodore Caldwell ate like a man who'd tasted everything worth tasting and wasn't easily impressed. He ordered the brisket plate half a pound with slaw and pickles and sat on a folding chair in the corner of Howard's garage while I watched from behind the smoker. He cut a piece, chewed slowly, eyes narrowed like he was solving a math problem. Finally, he set his fork down. "Best I've had in Austin," he said, "and I've had them all." "Thanks," I said. "You planning to stay in this garage forever?" "I'm working on it." He stood up, walked over, extended his hand. "Theodore Caldwell, retired real estate. Made my money, got bored, looking for something interesting to do before I die." I shook his hand. "Harrison Fletcher." "I know who you are. Been hearing about you for 2 months." He glanced around the garage, the smoker, the folding table, the tip jar. "You're maxed out here. You know that, right?" "Yeah." "So let's fix it. I'll put up 45,000. You bring the recipes, the skills, the brand. We split profits. 50-50. What do you say?" I stared at him. "You don't even know me. I know you started with $620 and built this in 10 months. I know you work 16-hour days and you've got fire in your eyes. That's enough." He pulled out a business card. "Think about it. Call me when you're ready." I called him that night. By August 2013, we'd bought a used food truck, bright red with Fletcher's Smokehouse painted in gold letters across the side. We parked it on South Congress, right in the heart of Austin's tourist district, near the vintage shops and food trailers that drew crowds every weekend. The truck had a custom smoker, built into the back propane burners, a service window, and enough space for me and one helper. Theodore handled permits, insurance, marketing. I handled the food. We opened on a Saturday morning. By noon, the line was 30 people deep. First month, we did $12,000 in revenue, $4,000 profit after expenses. Second month, $18,000 revenue. By January 2014, we were clearing $38,000 a month, and I was working 18-hour days just to keep up. The Austin Chronicle ran a piece calling us the best BBQ truck in the city. Food bloggers showed up with cameras. Tourists asked for photos in front of the truck. Theodore stood beside me one afternoon, watching the line snake down the sidewalk. "We need a brick and mortar," he said. "What?" "A real location. Sit-down restaurant. We're turning away 100 customers a day. We need more capacity." I wiped smoke from my eyes. "That's a lot of money." "I've got it. Question is, are you ready?" I looked at that line. Looked at the truck that had changed my life in 18 months. "Yeah," I said. "I'm ready." December 2014, we signed a lease for a 2,200 square foot space on East 6th Street. Former taco shop, gutted interior, needed full build-out. Rent was $3,500 a month. Theodore wrote the check for renovations, $50,000 for kitchen equipment, smoker's dining room furniture. We shook hands in that empty space, dust floating in the afternoon light coming through the windows. "You know what you're building here, right?" Theodore asked. "A restaurant." "No," he smiled. "An empire." I laughed. I was 58 years old, standing in an empty building, about to open my first real restaurant. 2 years ago, I'd been sleeping on a couch with nothing. Now I had a partner, a plan, and a future. "Let's build it," I said. We built it. March 2015. Fletcher's Smokehouse opened its first brick-and-mortar location on East 6th Street. 60 seats, 3 smokers running full-time lines out the door from day one. First-year revenue, $780,000. But I didn't stop there. 2016, we opened location 2 in North Austin. 2017, Round Rock. By 2018, we had 4 locations and the food truck still running. Theodore handled the business side, leases, hiring, accounting. I focused on the food training pitmasters, making sure every brisket that left our kitchens met the standard Giovanni had beaten into me. By 2020, we had 8 locations across the Austin metro area, an annual revenue of $5.7 million. Net profit, $1.2 million. I was 68 years old and owned a BBQ empire. That June, I bought a house in Westlake Hills. Not just any house, a $4 million estate with floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of Lake Travis, and enough space to finally breathe. I paid cash, walked into the title company with a cashier's check and signed the papers. The real estate agent looked at me like I'd won the lottery. In a way, I had. Austin Monthly ran a feature that summer, BBQ King of Austin Harrison Fletcher's $5.7 million empire. They photographed me in my backyard with my custom smoker, talked about the journey from sleeping on a couch to owning 8 restaurants. The article went viral locally. People recognized me at HEB. I should have known that article would find its way to Dominic, because while I'd been building an empire, my son had been destroying his life. I didn't know it then, but Dominic had blown through the $1.5 million his mother left him in less than 5 years. Gambling, mostly. High-stakes poker and underground games. Weekend trips to Vegas that turned into week-long benders. By 2015, he was into loan sharks for over $300,000. By 2020, he owed $512,000 to people who don't forgive debt. The house I'd been kicked out of the house, Beatrice bought the house Dominic stole, was falling apart. They'd sold the furniture piece by piece to cover bills. Veronica worked reception at a dental office, making $32,000 a year. Dominic bounced between construction jobs, never lasting more than 6 months. And then there was Elliot, my grandson, born 2010. I'd never met him. Dominic and Veronica told him I was dead, told him his grandfather had died before he was born, that there was no one else, that they were all he had. Elliot grew up in that decaying house with parents who barely noticed him making his own meals, walking himself to school, believing he had no family beyond 2 people who'd given up on everything, including him. I didn't know any of this. How could I? Dominic had cut me out completely. Until May 2024, when Veronica was getting her hair done and picked up a copy of Austin Monthly in the salon. She saw my face on the cover, saw the house, the cars, the 8 locations, the $5.7 million. She went home and showed Dominic. I can imagine that conversation, the shock, the rage, the realization that the father he'd thrown away was now worth $27 million, more than Beatrice had ever been worth, more than Dominic would see in 10 lifetimes. I can imagine Veronica's wheels turning, the plans forming. They spent a year planning, watching, researching, learning everything about my business, my assets, my life. And on a Saturday morning in June 2025, 13 years after Dominic kicked me out of my own house, my doorbell rang. I was making brisket, just like always. When I opened that door and saw my son standing there with his wife and 4 Louis Vuitton suitcases, I knew exactly why they'd come, but they didn't know I'd been expecting them. The first day they played it perfect. Dominic helped me with the smoker, asked about my health, complimented the house. Veronica made iced tea, set the table for dinner, smiled like she gave a damn. They were careful, calculated, playing the role of prodigal son and devoted daughter-in-law who'd finally come to their senses. I played along, nodded, smiled, poured them wine, watched. Day 2, the cracks started showing. "Dad, you managing all your accounts okay?" Dominic asked over breakfast. "At your age, it must be hard keeping track of everything." "I manage fine. It's just Mom always handled the finances, right? Maybe you could use some help. Veronica's good with spreadsheets." Veronica nodded, eager. "We just want to make sure you're protected, Harrison. You've worked so hard." "I have an accountant," I said. "What about a lawyer?" Dominic pressed. "Someone looking after your estate planning." There it was. Not even 48 hours, and they were asking about my will. "I have a lawyer," I said. "Who, Pamlu?" "Someone I trust." The conversation died. Veronica cleared plates a little too loudly. Day 3. I caught them. I'd gone out to check the smoker around 10 p.m. Came back through the side door they didn't know about. Heard voices upstairs, low, conspiratorial. I stood at the bottom of the stairs and listened. "This room is perfect," Veronica said. "Master bedroom walk-in closet, that view." "It's his bedroom," Dominic said. "For now." A pause. Once we get him into assisted living, this is ours. We'll redecorate. Get rid of all this old man furniture." "You really think we can do this?" "Baby, he's 69 years old. We tell everyone he's losing his memory, getting confused. We'll find a doctor who'll say he's unfit. Then we petition for conservatorship, move him into a nice facility, and we manage his assets. All of them, every single dollar." I stood there in the dark hallway, listening to my son and his wife plan to lock me away and steal everything I'd built. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I'd known this was coming. But hearing it out loud, hearing them dividing up my life like I was already dead, crystallized something in me. They wanted to play dirty fine. I could play dirtier. I went to my study, closed the door, and called Warren Ashford. He'd been my attorney since 2014, handled every contract, every lease, every business deal. Mid-60s, sharp as a knife former prosecutor who didn't lose. He picked up on the second ring. "Harrison, late for you." "I need you to do something," I said. "My daughter-in-law, Veronica Ashton Fletcher. I need you to dig into her background. Everything. Financial history, criminal record, past relationships, all of it." Silence on the other end. "Then, you think she's hiding something?" "I know she is." "What about Dominic?" "Him too, but start with her." "I know someone," Warren said. "Private investigator, best in Texas. Charges $200 an hour, but he's worth every penny. I don't care what it costs. I want to know who these people really are. Give me 24 hours. He called back the next evening while Dominic and Veronica were out shopping, spending money they didn't have, probably planning what furniture to buy for my bedroom once they stole it. "His name's Wesley Hunt," Warren said. "Former Dallas PD, 15 years in fraud investigation. He can find anything." "Set it up." "Harrison, what exactly are we looking for?" I thought about Veronica's cold eyes, the way she'd looked at my house like she was appraising it. Thought about Dominic asking about my lawyer, my will, my accounts. "Proof," I said, "that they're planning to take everything. And if we find it, then I'm going to make sure they don't take a goddamn thing." Wesley Hunt showed up at my office 2 days later with a manila folder thick as a phone book. Mid-40s buzz cut, going gray sharp eyes that had seen every kind of lie. Former Dallas PD, 15 years, working fraud and financial crimes. "Family cases get messy," he said, sitting across from me. "I know. Give me a week." 6 days later, he called. "We need to meet, not your house." We met at a Denny's off I-35 at 7 a.m. Wesley slid the folder across coffee steaming between us. "Your son first," he said. "Dominic Fletcher, 41, unemployed 8 months. But here's what matters. He owes $512,000 to 3 Las Vegas casinos. Started gambling heavy in 2015. By 2020, banned from most legitimate poker rooms. Moved to underground games with people who don't forgive debt." He slid court documents across. "Civil judgment in Clark County, Nevada. Ordered repayment. He hasn't paid a dime." My chest tightened. "Now, Veronica." Wesley pulled out police reports, bank statements. "Before she married your son, she had another husband. Gerald Hoffman, Dallas 2015. He was 68, owned commercial real estate worth $4 million. She was 29. He showed me a photo. Young Veronica with an old man at a charity gala. 2 years into the marriage, Gerald's company collapsed. Bad investments. Within weeks, Veronica cleaned out their joint account, $380,000. Forged his signature on withdrawal papers and disappeared. Wesley pushed a police report toward me. Dallas PD case 2017-0483. Gerald filed charges, but she vanished. Changed her name back to Ashton, moved to Houston, met Dominic a year later. She's done this before, and now she's doing it to you. He pulled out another photo. Blonde woman, 40s, tired eyes. Diane Hoffman, Gerald's daughter. She's been hunting Veronica for 7 years. Kept every piece of evidence, bank records, forged signatures, emails. I called her yesterday. She'll fly to Austin tomorrow and testify. I stared at the evidence. The pattern was crystal clear. Veronica targeted wealthy men, married them, waited for the right moment, then took everything. "There's more," Wesley said quietly. "Warren had me install hidden cameras in your house. You signed the consent forms, it's legal. Audio and video in common areas. We've been recording for 3 days." He pulled out his phone, played footage. My living room. Late at night. Veronica and Dominic alone. "Veronica, we need to move faster. Get him declared mentally unfit." "Dominic, how?" "Veronica, I know a doctor in Houston who'll diagnose dementia for 15 grand. Once we have that diagnosis, we petition the court for conservatorship, move him into a memory care facility. Then we control everything. Bank accounts, properties, businesses." "Dominic, what if he fights it?" "Veronica, he's 69 years old. Who's the court going to believe, a confused old man or his concerned family?" I watched my son nod, watched him agree to lock me away. Wesley turned off the video. "You've got everything you need. Elder abuse, conspiracy, attempted fraud, and Veronica's outstanding warrant in Dallas. You call the cops right now, they're both arrested by lunch." I sat there staring at that phone. imagining Dominic in handcuffs, Veronica in a holding cell, but that felt too easy, too quick. They wanted to humiliate me, lock me in a facility, steal everything I'd built from nothing. I wanted them to feel exactly what that was like. No, I said, I don't want them arrested. Not yet. Wesley frowned. What do you want? I want them to confess, in front of witnesses. People who know me. People who'll see exactly who they are. How? I smiled for the first time in days. I'm going to throw them a party. A celebration dinner. They think they're about to win everything. I'll let them think that right up until the moment I play that video, for everyone to see. Wesley leaned back, studying me. That's risky. They could run. They won't run. They think I'm a senile old man who doesn't see it coming. And when you expose them, then I call the cops, with a room full of witnesses who just watched them confess to fraud and elder abuse. Wesley finally smiled. When's the party? Saturday night, 1 week from now. Can you have everything ready? Evidence witnesses Diane Hoffman audio-visual equipment. He nodded. Yeah, we'll be ready. Good. I stood up, left, cash on the table. Because I've been waiting 13 years to show my son exactly who his father really is. The doorbell rang at 11:30 on a Tuesday night. Dominic and Veronica had gone to bed an hour ago. I opened the door expecting a lost delivery driver. Instead, I found a kid. 15, maybe 16. Skinny, wearing a hoodie 2 sizes too big and jeans with holes that weren't fashionable. Ratty backpack, face all sharp angles and hollow cheeks. But his eyes stopped me cold. Beatrice's eyes. Same deep brown. Same way of looking straight through you. Are you Harrison Fletcher? He asked. I am. I'm Elliot. His voice cracked. Elliot Fletcher. Your grandson. The world tilted. Come inside. I poured him water in the kitchen. He drained it in 3 gulps. Up close, he looked worse. Dark circles. Dirt under fingernails. Bruise on his wrist shaped like fingers. When do you last eat lunch? Yesterday. I made him a brisket sandwich. Watched him demolish it like someone might take it away. Your parents told you I was dead. He nodded. Said you died before I was born. That there was no family. How'd you find me? Library. Saw a magazine. Austin Monthly. Your face on the cover. He looked down. You looked like me. Same nose. I Googled you. Found your address. You walked here 12 miles. 3 hours. Jesus Christ. Why'd you come? His jaw tightened. Because they don't care about me. Dad's always gone, gambling or whatever. Mom just screams. They forget groceries. I make my own meals when there's food. I don't have lunch money at school. My hands clenched. They fight about you. Elliot continued. About money. Mom says you're rich, that you owe Dad, that they'll take everything. I didn't understand until I saw that article. I looked at this boy, my grandson I'd never met, who'd been told I didn't exist. Does your father know you're here? No, I snuck out. They probably haven't noticed. You want to go back? Tears filled his eyes. He shook his head. I walked around the table and pulled him into a hug. He was all bones and fear shaking. You're safe now, I said. You hear me? I'm not letting anyone hurt you again. He sobbed into my shirt. I led him to the guest room near my study, the one Dominic and Veronica didn't know about. Sleep. We'll figure everything out tomorrow. After he closed the door, I called Warren. Harrison, it's midnight. I need emergency custody of my grandson, tonight. I want legal guardianship by end of week. Silence. What happened? He showed up at my door. 15, starving, bruised. Parents told him I was dead. They've been neglecting him while planning to rob me. Jesus. I'm not letting them have him back. I'll draft the petition first thing tomorrow. I hung up and sat in the dark. Upstairs, Dominic and Veronica slept soundly. Down the hall, my grandson finally slept somewhere safe. In 1 week, I was going to destroy the people who'd hurt us both. The cameras caught everything. Wesley's hidden equipment had been recording for 2 weeks straight, audio and video, in the living room, kitchen, and hallway. I sat in my study the morning after Elliot arrived, watching footage on my laptop while my grandson slept down the hall. What I saw made my blood run cold. Day 8/11:47 p.m., living room. Dominic and Veronica on the couch, voices low. Veronica, we need to accelerate the timeline. I found a doctor in Houston who will diagnose cognitive decline for 20 grand. Dominic. That's a lot of money. Veronica, it's an investment. Once we have a medical diagnosis, we file for conservatorship. The court appoints us as guardians. We control his bank accounts, sell his properties, liquidate the business. Dominic, what if he fights it? Veronica, he's 69. We'll say he's confused, forgetful, a danger to himself. Who's the judge going to believe? I watched my son nod, slowly, considering it. Day 10, 9:15 p.m., kitchen. Veronica on phone. Dr. Patterson. Yes, it's about that consultation we discussed. My father-in-law. I need documentation stating he has moderate dementia. Doesn't matter if it's true. I need official letterhead. 20,000 wire transfer. I'll send it tomorrow. She hung up, smiled. Day 12, 10:33 p.m., living room. Dominic pacing, agitated. Dominic. Elliot's gone. He didn't come home from school. Veronica, so Dominic. So he's 15. He could be hurt. Veronica. Or he ran away because he's a drama queen. Either way, who cares? The kid's useless. Honestly, it's better if he's gone. One less thing to deal with. Loot. Dominic. That's my son. Veronica. Your son is a burden we can't afford. We're 3 weeks from controlling $27 million. Focus on that. Dominic stopped pacing. Didn't argue. Just nodded and sat down. I paused the video. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from rage. She'd called my grandson a 15-year-old boy useless, said it was better if he was gone. And Dominic had just accepted it. I forwarded the footage to Warren. He called 10 minutes later. This is everything we need, he said. Conspiracy to commit fraud, elder abuse, child neglect. Harrison, we can have them arrested today. Not yet. Why not? Because I want witnesses. I want everyone who knows me to see exactly who they are. Warren was quiet for a moment. The party. The party? When Saturday night, 6 days from now. I'll have Diane Hoffman fly in Friday. Wesley will set up the AV equipment. But Harrison, if they suspect anything, they won't. They think they're winning. I hung up and opened my desk drawer. Inside was a stack of cream-colored invitations I'd had printed 2 days ago. You're invited to a family reunion dinner. Saturday, 7:00 p.m. Fletcher Estate, Westlake Hills. Celebrating new beginnings, I wrote out invitations by hand. Theodore Caldwell. Howard Dixon and Melanie. Giovanni Moretti. Warren Ashford. A few others, people who'd been there when I had nothing. Then I walked upstairs and knocked on the guest room door where Dominic and Veronica were staying. Veronica answered, hair perfect, smile plastic. Harrison, good morning. Morning. I wanted to give you this. I handed her an invitation. She read it, eyebrows rising. A party. I've been thinking about what you said, about family, about moving forward. I smiled. I want to celebrate having you both here. Celebrate new beginnings. Her eyes lit up. Harrison, that's wonderful. Invite anyone you'd like. I'm having it catered. Spare no expense. We'd be honored. She glanced back at Dominic still in bed. Wouldn't we, baby? Yeah, Dominic called. Honored. I nodded and walked away, leaving the invitation in her hand. Back in my study, I watched the security monitor, saw Veronica close the door, heard her voice through the audio feed. He's giving in. The stupid old man actually thinks we care about him. Dominic laughed. This is perfect. We play along, he signs over a power of attorney at the party, and we're done. 6 more days, Veronica said. Then this house is ours. I turned off the monitor and smiled. 6 more days. Then they'd learn who they'd been trying to rob. Saturday evening, 7 p.m. My backyard looked like something out of a magazine. I'd hired the best caterer in Austin, $18,500 for a dinner that would feed 20 people. Long table under string lights, white linens, crystal glasses catching the sunset over Lake Travis. 3 smokers running full-time, filling the air with hickory and oak. Brisket ribs, pulled pork, all the sides. Open bar, live jazz trio in the corner. I'd spared no expense. Because tonight wasn't about the food. The guests started arriving at 6:45. Theodore Caldwell, 86, now leaning on a cane but sharp as ever. Howard Dixon and Melanie, who'd driven over together. Giovanni Moretti, in a suit that looked like it hadn't been worn since his daughter's wedding. A few managers from my restaurants, people who'd known me when I had nothing. They mingled in the yard, drinks in hand, asking why I'd called them all here. Just wait, I told them. You'll see. Inside the house, hidden in my study, were the people Dominic and Veronica didn't know about. Warren Ashford reviewing documents. Wesley Hunt manning the audiovisual equipment he'd spent all afternoon setting up. Diane Hoffman, who'd flown in from Dallas that morning clutching a folder of evidence she'd carried for 7 years. Judge Victor Merrill, an old friend of Warren's, here unofficially to witness what was about to happen. And 2 Austin PD officers waiting with an arrest warrant for Veronica Ashton Fletcher, issued by Dallas PD for fraud and embezzlement. Everything was ready. At 6:58, a black Uber pulled up. Dominic stepped out first, wearing a navy suit that probably cost $3,000. Veronica followed in a red dress that hugged every curve heels, clicking on the stone driveway. Both outfits borrowed or bought on credit they couldn't afford. I'd bet money on it. They looked like they'd already won. Veronica scanned the setup. The lights, the table, the guests, and her smile widened. She leaned into Dominic, whispered something I couldn't hear from where I stood by the smoker. But I knew what she was thinking. Tonight, he announces we're his heirs. Tonight, we win everything. They walked toward me, all smiles. Dad, Dominic said, shaking my hand like we were business partners. This is incredible. You've outdone yourself, Harrison, Veronica added, kissing my cheek. Her perfume was expensive. Everything about her was expensive, built on lies and stolen money. I wanted tonight to be special, I said. A celebration. Of what? Dominic asked. You'll see. Theodore approached champagne in hand and gave me a look that said, What the hell are you up to? I'd told him to trust me. Told him to just show up and watch. By 7:15, everyone was seated. The jazz trio went quiet. Conversation died down. I stood at the head of the table, glass in hand. 20 faces looked at me. Dominic and Veronica sat to my right, practically glowing with anticipation. Thank you all for coming, I started. Some of you have known me for decades. Some of you were there when I had nothing. Theodore Howard Giovanni, you saw me at my lowest and helped me build something I'm proud of. Theodore raised his glass. Howard nodded. Tonight, I want to share a story. I continued. A story about family, about betrayal, about the truth. Dominic's smile faltered slightly. Veronica's eyes narrowed. I pulled out a remote from my pocket and pointed it at the projection screen Wesley had set up behind me. Let's start with a video. I pressed play. The screen lit up with footage from my living room. Veronica and Dominic on the couch. Timestamp 11:47 p.m., 2 weeks ago. Veronica, we need to accelerate the timeline. I found a doctor in Houston who will diagnose cognitive decline for $20,000. Once we have a medical diagnosis, we file for conservatorship. We control his bank accounts, sell his properties, liquidate the business. The table went silent. Dominic, what if he fights it? Veronica, he's 69. We'll say he's confused a danger to himself. Who's the judge going to believe? I paused the video. That's my son and daughter-in-law planning to have me declared mentally incompetent so they can steal everything I own. Dominic shot to his feet. Dad, that's... Sit down. He did. I played another clip. Veronica on the phone. Veronica, Dr. Patterson. I need documentation stating he has moderate dementia. Doesn't matter if it's true. 20,000 wire transfer. Casts around the table. I played the final clip. Dominic, Elliot's gone. He didn't come home from school. Veronica, who cares? The kid's useless. Honestly, it's better if he's gone. The table erupted. Giovanni stood face red. Howard swore. That, I said, is what they said about my 15-year-old grandson, a boy they told I was dead. I turned to Dominic. You owe $512,000 to Vegas casinos. Civil judgment, Clark County. Unpaid. I held up documents. And Veronica, before my son, you married Gerald Hoffman in Dallas. 2015. When his business collapsed, you stole $380,000 and vanished. There's an outstanding warrant. That's a lie, Veronica hissed. Is it Mexafs? Diane Hoffman walked out from the house, 43, carrying a folder. Hello, Veronica. Remember me, Gerald Hoffman's daughter. Veronica went white. I have bank statements. Forged signatures. 7 years of evidence. Diane dropped the folder on the table. You robbed my father. Now you're doing it again. 2 Austin PD officers stepped out. Veronica Ashton Fletcher, you're under arrest for fraud and embezzlement. Outstanding warrant from Dallas County. Veronica tried to run. 3 steps. Handcuffs. This is bullshit, she screamed. Harrison tell them? I said nothing. Dominic collapsed into his chair. Dad, please, I'm sorry. No. I pulled out a restraining order. You're not allowed within 500 feet of me or my property. Violate at jail. Dad. Elliot stepped out from the house. Clean clothes. Fed. Safe. He walked to my side. Dominic's face broke. Elliot, son, don't. Elliot said quietly. I don't want to hear it. He turned to me. Grandpa, can we go inside? Yeah. I looked at Dominic one last time. You need to leave. Now. He stood and walked toward the driveway where Veronica was being loaded into a police car. The guests watched him disappear into the night. Theodore came to my side. You okay? Yeah, I said. I am? The legal fallout took 6 months to settle. July 2025, Veronica stood trial in Dallas for fraud and embezzlement. Diane Hoffman testified. Bank records, forged signatures, emails. All of it entered into evidence. Veronica's attorney negotiated a plea deal to avoid prison time. 500 hours community service. 3 years probation. Mandatory therapy. Restitution to Gerald Hoffman. $380,000 payable over 10 years at $3,800 a month. She took the deal. August Dominic faced charges in Austin. Conspiracy to commit elder abuse based on the video evidence. Warren pushed hard, but the DA offered a deal. 300 hours community service. 2 years probation, mandatory gambling addiction therapy. The restraining order remained in effect 500 feet from me and Elliot for 5 years. Dominic took it. By September, they were done with each other. Veronica filed for divorce. Cited irreconcilable differences, which was the understatement of the century. They had no shared assets to divide, both were buried in debt. The proceedings took 30 days. Dominic signed the papers without a fight. October, I got a call from Warren. Dominic lost the house, he said. Bank foreclosed. He's moved into a studio apartment in Riverside, working at a Whataburger on South First. $12 an hour. I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No pity. Just nothing. He's attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings, Warren continued, 3 times a week. His sponsor says he's serious about it. Good for him. Harrison, he's your son. He was my son. Now he's just a man who made his choices. The custody hearing for Elliot happened the same month. Judge Victor Merrill presided. Dominic didn't show he'd waived his parental rights in writing, stating he was unfit and unable to provide care. Veronica had done the same from Dallas, more concerned with her restitution payments than her stepson. The hearing took 20 minutes. Mr. Fletcher, Judge Merrill said, looking over his glasses at me, the court finds that you are the appropriate guardian for Elliot Fletcher. Full legal custody is granted. The child's parents have surrendered their rights. Do you accept this responsibility? I do. Then it's settled. Elliot had been sitting next to Warren. When the judge announced the decision, I saw his shoulders relax for the first time in months. We went home. Our home. That evening I taught Elliot how to prep a brisket. Showed him how to trim the fat cap season the meat, the importance of patience. BBQ is like life, I said, echoing Giovanni's words from years ago. You rush it, you ruin it. Elliot nodded, focused on the rub he was mixing. Can I ask you something? He said quietly. Anything? Why'd you take me in? You didn't know me. I just showed up. I set down my knife and looked at him. This kid who had my wife's eyes and my nose and a lifetime of hurt he didn't deserve. Because you're family, I said. Real family. Not the kind that shares blood and then walks away. The kind that shows up when it matters. His eyes got wet. I've never had that before. You do now. He wiped his face with his sleeve and went back to mixing the rub. We worked in comfortable silence for a while, grandfather and grandson building something together in a kitchen that smelled like smoke and spices and home. Grandpa, Elliot said. First time he'd called me that outside of the party. Yeah. Thank you. For everything. I put my hand on his shoulder. You don't have to thank me. This is where you belong. He smiled. Small but real. We finished prepping the brisket and loaded it into the smoker. Elliot watched the temperature gauge like his life depended on it. How long? He asked. 14 hours. Low and slow. That's a long time. Best things are worth waiting for. He looked at me. Like family. Yeah, I said. Like family. 1 month after the party, a letter arrived. Plain envelope. My address written in handwriting I recognized but hadn't seen in years outside a courtroom. I almost threw it away. Instead, I opened it. Dad, I know I don't have the right to write to you. I know what I did is unforgivable. But my therapist says I need to start taking accountability, so here it is. I've completed 50 hours of my community service. I'm going to Gamblers Anonymous 3 times a week. I haven't touched a card or placed a bet since the night you exposed me. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking to see Elliot. I just wanted you to know I'm trying. I'm finally trying to be the man Mom thought I could be. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. If you don't, I understand. I'm sorry, Dad. For everything. Dominic, I read it twice. Looked for manipulation, for the angle for the lie. Found only a broken man's first step. Elliot walked into the kitchen. What's that? Letter from your father. His face went hard. What's he want? To apologize. 1 month too late. Elliot grabbed a water bottle from the fridge. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. He tried to lock you up, called me useless. 1 month of therapy doesn't fix that. No, it doesn't. Elliot leaned against the counter. But if you want to see him, I get it. He's still your son. What about you? I'm not ready. Maybe not ever. His jaw tightened. But that's between me and him, not you and him. I looked at this kid, 15 years old, wiser than he should have to be. Fair enough. I called the number Dominic included in the letter. He answered on the second ring, voice cautious. Hello. It's me. Silence. Then voice breaking, Dad. You want to meet? Yes, anywhere. I'll come to you. Halcyon Coffee on 4th Street. Tomorrow morning, 10. I'll be there. I hung up. The next morning I arrived early. Black coffee. Window seat. At 9:58, Dominic walked in. He looked different. Thinner. Gray at the temples, despite being only 41. He wore jeans and a plain t-shirt. No designer suit. No pretense. Dark circles under his eyes, like he hadn't slept well in weeks. Dad, he said, quietly sitting across from me. Dominic. We sat in silence. Thank you for meeting me, he finally said. I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't either. I meant what I wrote. I'm different now, or at least I'm trying to be different. I know that's hard to believe after 1 month. Then prove it. He blinked. How? Keep doing what you're doing. Community service. GA meetings. Therapy. Get a real job. Build a life that's worth something. Don't ask me for money. Don't ask to see Elliot. Just be better. That's it. That's everything. Dominic's eyes filled. I don't deserve this chance. No, you don't. But your mother believed in second chances. So maybe if you do the work, we can try again. Slowly, carefully. No promises. He wiped his face. Can I ask about Elliot? He's good, smart, safe, happy. Everything you should have given him. Dominic flinched but nodded. Does he hate me? I don't know. He's not ready to find out. Maybe someday, maybe never. I'll wait, however long it takes. We sat a while longer, talking carefully about his community service, picking up trash along I-35, his GA meetings in a church basement, his court-mandated therapist. Surface things, safe things. When we stood to leave, Dominic extended his hand. I looked at him. Then I shook it. Take care of yourself, I said. You too, Dad. I walked out into the July heat, feeling something I hadn't felt in 13 years when I looked at my son. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the beginning of it. 2 months after that dinner party, I stand in the original Fletcher's Smokehouse location on East 6th Street, the first brick and mortar we opened back in 2015. It's a Saturday afternoon in August. The place is packed. 27 locations across Texas now. Annual revenue pushing $15 million. Not bad for a guy who started with $620 and a beat-up smoker 13 years ago. But the money was never the point. Elliot's with me in the kitchen, learning how to prep brisket. 15 years old, wearing an apron that's too big for him, watching me trim fat with the focus of someone who actually cares. Like this, Grandpa, he asks, knife in hand. I check his work. Clean cuts. Proper technique. Perfect. You're a natural. He grins. Must be in the blood. Maybe. Or maybe it's just practice and patience. We work in comfortable silence, the kind that only comes when two people trust each other completely. The door opens. Howard Dixon walks in 84 now, but still moving. Melanie's with him 34, handling marketing for 3 of our locations now. Heard you two were here, Howard says. Figured we'd stop by. Always welcome. Damn right. I gave you your start, remember? I laugh. How could I forget? Giovanni Moretti follows them in. 71 beard going white, still teaching BBQ out of his house on weekends. He tastes the rub. Elliot mixed chews, thoughtfully nods. Good. But next time, a little more paprika. Elliot laughs. Yes, sir. We sit around one of the tables. Me, Elliot, Howard, Melanie, Giovanni. Eating brisket we made together. Telling stories. Laughing about the days when we cooked in Howard's garage with nothing but hope and smoke. This is what family looks like. Not blood, not obligation, but choice. The people who stayed when everything fell apart. Who believed when no one else did. Who showed up. Theodore would have been here too if he was still alive. I think about him every day, the old man who took a chance on a 58-year-old, nobody with a dream. After they leave, Elliot and I clean up the kitchen. The evening sun slants through the windows, painting everything gold. You think about him, Elliot asks quietly. He doesn't say the name. Your father, sometimes. You think he's really changing? I don't know. Maybe. People can surprise you. Would you let him back in if he did? I wipe down the counter, thinking. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. And it doesn't mean letting someone back into what we've built here. But maybe one day, if he proves he's different, we'll see. Elliot nods. This is ours, though. You and me? Yeah, it is. He walks to the big offset smoker in the corner, the beast that's been running since we opened this place 10 years ago. You ready for tomorrow? I ask. Always. We walk to the smoker together. I lift the heavy lid. Smoke billows out, carrying the smell of oak and charred meat and a decade of work. The coals glow red-orange in the fading light. Elliot stands beside me, and I see our reflection in the stainless steel hood. Old man and young kid, grandfather and grandson, past and future standing side by side. Elliot, I say. Yeah, Grandpa. Family isn't who you're born to. It's who stays when you've got nothing. Who fights for you. Who shows up. He looks at me, like you did for me. Like we do for each other. The fire crackles. The Texas sun dips below the skyline outside. Standing there with my grandson, surrounded by smoke and heat and the smell of home, I realized something. I didn't just survive what happened. I built something better. Come on, I say, closing the smoker lid. Let's go home. We walk out together into the evening heat, leaving the fire burning behind us, ready for whatever comes next. Looking back at this true story, I learned something most people figure out. Too Late Family isn't about blood. It's about who stays when you've got nothing left. Don't make my mistakes. Don't wait until you're 69 to realize that the people who matter aren't always the ones you're related to. Don't give everything to someone just because they share your name. And for God's sake, don't let bitterness kill you. I could have spent those 13 years angry and broken, but by God's grace, I chose to rebuild instead. Here's what I'd tell anyone listening to these grandpa stories. Protect yourself, but don't close your heart. People will betray you, even your own son, but that doesn't mean you stop trusting everyone. God put Howard, Theodore, Giovanni, and Melanie in my path when I needed them most. That wasn't coincidence. That was providence. And Elliot, that boy showing up at my door, wasn't luck. That was God saying, "You're not done yet, old man. You've still got purpose." The lesson: build something that matters. Not just money. Anyone can chase money. Build relationships. Build integrity. Build a legacy that people remember, not because you were rich, but because you were good. Because when everything burns down, when people take your house and your name and your dignity, the only thing left standing is who you chose to become in the fire. This true story taught me that revenge isn't justice, it's just more poison. Real victory is living well, loving hard, and leaving something behind worth keeping. That's my story. That's my truth. If this resonated with you, drop a comment below sharing your own story about family betrayal or second chances. Hit subscribe so you don't miss more real-life grandpa stories like this one. And share this with someone who needs to hear it today. You never know who's fighting their own battle in silence.